we have a third dimension related to the space and the fourth dimension related to the time. Now, we have another dimension, which is the fifth dimension, that will be the third and the fourth together united as one. How are we going to see now the sixth dimension? So the way in which we are going to do that is by connecting again, duplicating the structure. So now, a being in the third dimension going through a process of the fourth dimension gets aware of the entire process, and by consciousness realizing how to handle these two, can create a new reality in the sixth dimension. This takes away all the magic, all the poetry to the dimensions, of course. It's a fractal mathematics. From this point of view, very cold, we would say that a cube in the third dimension is just an object. Through the fourth dimension is an object that is moving. And this process of an object moving through the time, the unity of both of them is the fifth dimension, the one that holds the structure of this object going through a process. So in the sixth dimension, all this entire process being understood will be changing a little bit to create a new one. So this here is the fundaments, the basis of all of this. It's not all the time like this. What I mean is that I'm speaking about a cube here, and a cube is simple. It's like this, and you multiply the cube and so on. So it's very, very easy, very structural, very cold. But we can also take this cube and make a tree or a person or an animal. So depending on which being is here, the structure will be much more complex, thousands or billions of times complex. So it won't be just this projection, it will be very different. So, for example, in the third dimension, I can see a tree. I go in the street, I see a tree. In the fourth dimension, I don't see only a tree. I see the whole history of the tree. Since the seed, when it takes the first leaf, when it takes the roots, when it is growing, then we see the flowers, the fruits, all in one. We can see all of that in the fourth dimension. The reason why we cannot see the whole process of the tree is because we live in the third dimension and we can see only the depth of one thing. So in the third dimension, we can see only one stage of this life of the tree. So we can see the seed, and then we can see how it grows, and then we can see the tree, and so on. But we need a time, we need a process going to all the stages to see all that. So in the third dimension, we see the tree, but in the fourth dimension, we can see all the stages of the tree in one instant. So what I'm going to see in the fifth dimension of this process of the tree, I will see the patterns that hold the tree. I will see the energy that makes the tree happen, exist. In the fifth dimension, I will understand the logics of why a tree exists. So now, how am I going to see the tree in the sixth dimension? I will see the tree as if it is inside a kaleidoscope. I will see the tree like in a kaleidoscope. So the tree suddenly will have very weird shapes, like if it is dividing itself and projecting itself, like in many options. And suddenly, in the kaleidoscope, when I turn the image, the tree starts to turn upside down, and the roots are up, and I start to see like this shape, and they start to replicate once and again until they are smaller and smaller and smaller. So suddenly, it stops being one tree, and it turns out to be many options of that tree. This is what we call the bending and the unbending of time. So here we have these two constants. the constant of time and the constant of space. Why are they called constants? Because constant comes from the Latin word, the entity that stays together all the time. Okay, so that's what it would be, a constant. So time and space are the two constants of the universe. It's always there. So in this constant, we can understand that we have here different crosses that represents different times and different spaces. So what determines the difference of these times and the difference of these spaces? Vibration. According to the level of vibration, you are in a higher place or in a lower place, in a higher time, in a lower time. To a place that is in a high vibration, we will call it up, and a low vibration, we will call it down. So a time in a low vibration will be called past, a time in a high vibration will be called future. So now, in each one of these crosses, we have a merging of these two time and space. So it is a singularity here. So now, all the energy in the universe, when they get together in a constant of time and a constant of space, get together a positive aspect and the negative aspect. What happens when you put a positive and a negative? They will try to find a neutral point, so get together. So this magnetic field will discharge the energy through the positive and absorb the energy through the negative. Because time and space are a constant, so it's not only one positive and one negative, it's a constant of positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. So the energy will move in a spiral way here. So if I have here one positive and one negative, this dot here will start to spin. So this will generate a source of energy. So what this will create is like this turning point, like a key, like if you are adjusting the strings of a guitar. So what happened? As much strength it has, the other weak points will tend to go to this dot here. So this will begin to do like this. You see it? So now this is what we call the bending of time and space. It is curving the lines of time and space. So suddenly the nodes that before were in the crosses will be bending towards these regions here. So this would be like a sun and the stars and the planets moving around, going around a bit. So this makes appear the third dimension. Here we have the first dimension in this line. Then we have the second dimension. And here, with the depth of this movement, the spiral, we create the third dimension. This is how the third dimension appears in the constant of time and space. So matter is not something that moves through time and space. Matter, as you see here, is the entangle of time and space, is a result of all those things together and compressed. And this is what creates the gravity. That's something that was vibrating like ding, 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 starts to vibrate like ding, 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 dong, ding, wom, 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 wom. Gravity. So the strength in which you regulate the scrolling like this is the fourth dimension. So what is the fifth dimension? The fifth dimension would be this. So what is the fifth dimension? The angles of observation of one process. So The fifth dimension is basically the observer, which is the angles that are observing the process that they hold. So now to see and understand the sixth dimension, we will have to go backwards, behind this. And I will try to draw it a little bit much more simple. So now I hope you can understand that this, what I drew here, is like another perspective of what before was in two dimensions. So now I'm trying to draw it in a third dimension. So you can see how the center point that before all the lines were heading to the core is really here because of the gravity, the heaviness. So all these lines that I was drawing here, they are going down there. So this is how you see it in another perspective. Okay, so this is the bending of the time. The time is curving itself like this. So remember that what I was explaining the other day, this is like if you have a bed and you put a weight, a very heavy ball, the other tiny balls around, they will come to that, it will fall down towards the bigger one. So that's the gravity. So now what we have here, that all this space that is holding the weight of this is the fifth dimension. So we have here that time and space, they curve themselves, creating an object. So now let's go into what is happening in the sixth dimension. It's happening the same, but in the opposite side. See? So what this means, that what is happening here will transform itself and be able to be experienced here. We have a first dimension, we have a fourth dimension, we have a third dimension, we have a fourth dimension, and we have a fifth dimension, which is what is holding the entire picture. So each angle of the whole pattern here is the fifth dimension. So here we have, as I said, first dimension here, second dimension, the third dimension, the depth, the fourth dimension, the bending, which is the time, and the fifth dimension, which is the observation that holds all this that is happening in the grid. So where's the sixth dimension? The sixth dimension is the opposite side, creating the opposite of it. The sixth dimension here would be the one that completes the entire creation, that gives the force of the entire creation. Let's see it more simple now. Simple here. Fifth dimension, sixth dimension. What is doing the sixth dimension? To multiply this structure, this concept of time and space, towards within and towards the outside as many times as possible. So it will be bending time and space towards the depth and towards the outside. So it will replicate the same system. I cannot draw it properly because it's very complex, the design. It would start to expand towards the outside. So the sixth dimension, what it does is to take something, is the dimension of the architects of the universe, is the one that creates, that designs all the things. So basically the sixth dimension is like going into the third dimension, taking a concept, a data, an object, and transform it into a different thing, into a new reality. And it does this once and again. So we don't have examples in the third dimension to see the sixth dimension because it's impossible. The only way we can summarize this is by explaining evolution, for example. Evolution is the sixth dimension, but we see it through the vision of the third and the fourth dimension. So it takes a long time to see how the things transform itself in different things. We need billions of years in order to appreciate that in our dimension, when in the sixth dimension, you can see the whole in one moment. So now to understand, for example, something much more human and something that you can live, how the sixth dimension would work, is like, for example, the letter A. When you say, for example, when everyone, when is born, usually say the letter A as a sound, when we cry. Okay, so we prepare our voices to say ah. Then someone explains us to say, not explains us, but we start to imitate the words mom, dad. So we have the letter encoded in something, in a word. Later, someone will teach us the letter A. So we will write the letter A. And then we will learn about a word with the letter A. So we will learn the concept of that. And then someone will teach us how to read a text. So we will forget about the A and we will think only about the content of the text. And so on. You will find yourself in doing a degree, how to say this? A thesis, let's say, a PhD, that's a word, a PhD, I don't know, with 25 years old, and you won't think about the A, you will think about the concepts that you are learning with wisdom and knowledge and so on. So the concept here in the sixth dimension is that the sixth dimension does exactly the same as we do with the letter A. For example, the sixth dimension takes the letter A from the third dimension and grab it here and transform it into a word, and then takes the word again and transform it into a concept, and takes the concept and transform it into a text, and takes the text and transform it into poetry, and so on. So the sixth dimension is the one transforming only one thing, fractalizing it and making it much more complex. Okay, so it's making it complex and complex and complex from one only thing. So in the same way as from one tiny letter, we can create thousands and millions of books speaking about so many things, many topics, different topics. So the universe also from one tiny particle can create all this. And the sixth dimension is the one that allows that this fractalization could work. Is the one that allows the evolution to happen. And of course, as everything, this dimension is a polar dimension. This duality is the one that we call chiral. So this dimension is chiral. And this means that like this, like the hands are exactly the same, are equal, but when I put one of it over the other, they don't fit. They had these two fingers out. So this is the concept of a chiral thing, that two equal things, anyway, they are opposite. So why I explain this? Because the dimensions, when they separate each other like this, like the fifth dimension, the sixth dimension, are like this. Here the fifth dimension, here the sixth dimension, and in the middle we have the design that I did before of the octahedron. So when they turn like this, they doesn't fit. They are equal, but they don't fit each other. So this is what explains why there are thousands of options of parallel realities in the six dimensions. But even though they are equal to us, they don't match with us, so we cannot interact with them. And this has the logics in the universe. So why is it important to understand this concept of chiral? Because in the sixth dimension, let's say they found a way in which we can keep moving and not stucking in the reality. And this is by creating a polarity in which both realities love eternally each other, but they cannot match. So they will look for billions of ways in which they can match. This is a very cold way to explain the twin souls and the twin flames. All of you who are romantics or looking for your twin soul in this moment, take a deep breath. So, as I explained before, this design that I did, born from the conjunction of time and space, is the beginning of a spark of a fire that you can see this way or this way. So these two flames are opposite one another, which means that they are complementary. So each one of them needs to help each other to find the path, to find how to connect with the other side. So these flames must to multiply, fractalize itself thousands and thousands of times in different directions until it finds the path to activate the flame exactly the same as the other, matching with the other. And this will give us our famous shape, which is the path, the way. So all this is basically to connect the two fires of a being, which is the soul and the spirit. The one we call alpha and the one we call omega. Feminine aspect here, masculine aspect up. So now, during all this path, trying to find the connection between the soul and the spirit of myself, what are all this here? All of them are fractalizations trying to reach the unity. So these are people that I myself created, and I have been created by people. So we are all created, reflecting ourselves, the attributes of our soul and the attributes of our spirit. That's why we fall in love with other people, believing they are our twin souls, our twin flames. So, as I was saying, pay attention to this. I am not saying with this that you should not look for your twin soul or something like that because you are the only one that must love yourself. No, because everyone is yourself. The entire universe is yourself. So you can fall in love with everyone looking for these attributes of yourself. The only thing that I'm saying is that we should rethink about living like Disney. So the sixth dimension is the one that is creating thousands and billions of options of only one reality. So if the sixth dimension is the one that allowed to create all these options of myself, what I have to do in order to handle the creation of my own self is to allow myself to love every option that I have created. Love the others as if they were yourself. Because it is like that.